Hey, it's Dana Peever, the Decision Smith. How are you? We're on episode 6 of our pre-launch videos. And today is the last day we're going to be talking specifically about your pros and cons list. So again, if you haven't watched the previous videos, suggest you go back and have a listen. It'll lay out for you exactly what we're talking about over the course of the 2 weeks that we're doing these specific videos. So talked the last couple of days about a pros and cons list and that approach and how it's a great starting point, but it also sometimes leads to your brain being tricked by bias that you might have that you're not necessarily aware of. One of the other things I started talking about yesterday too was whether or not this is actually your pros and cons list. And that's one of the things that my system really helps people segregate in terms of their decision-making process and what their specific thoughts are versus anyone else's. Because when you're making tough decisions, you're usually making a decision that is going to impact other people in your life, whether it be your spouse or your family. There are typically other people involved, or otherwise it might not necessarily be such a tough decision for you to make. But what happens when you're making decisions without a system is that you typically start to take their thoughts, feelings, wants, needs into account before you take your own. No, I'm not saying I don't want you to take those into account, and I love the way my system allows you to do that, but this is your decision to make, not theirs. So you need to be putting your needs at the forefront while you're also incorporating theirs, but in a more subtle way. So again, I can't wait to be able to teach you how to walk through my system and be able to look at making your decision, taking other people's thoughts into account, but mostly yours. The other topic I wanted to cover today with regard to a pros and cons list, or even listing out your factors as you do using my system. Typically, when you're going through making a decision, you identify, the good things that would happen if you made the decision, and, the bad things that would happen, or might not be so good for you if you made this decision. And what I see so often is that people get really excited that they've finally made a decision. They finally know what the best solution is for them. And because they're so excited and feel so positive about having made the decision, they only take the positive into account. So they sometimes think that miraculously all the items that they had on the con side, or the factors that they took into account that weren't necessarily positive, somehow disappear. And then people are disappointed when they are, seeing the results of the decision they've made and it's not perfect. So one of the things about, my system is that we talk through all that and we work through what's good and what's bad about this decision, what's positive and what's negative. And as you go into, having made this decision, you are fully aware of the impact of the good and the bad. You haven't forgotten what negatives might come or be associated with having made this decision. So that's one of the things I really love about this process, that you don't go in blindly and think everything's going to be rosy. You really, when you make this decision, you make it knowing that you're accepting both the good and the bad as you move forward. And that's really key to being, happy and satisfied with the decision that you've made. So that's all I've got to share at this point from a pros and cons perspective. So stay tuned for our next episode, which will air next Monday. And really then we're going to start talking about how a decision making framework can really support transformation. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into the benefits of having that framework to be able to guide you to making those tough decisions. All right, look forward to seeing you then. I'm Dana, the Decision Smith. We'll talk soon.